Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2017 survival biopic drama titled Jungle. Now, Jungle runs for 1 hour and 55 minutes long. It is directed by Greg McLean. It is produced by Todd Feldman, Mike Gabwari, Gary Hamilton, Mark Lazarus, Dana Lustig, and Greg McLean. The script was written by Justin Monjo. It is based on a novel, and it is actually inspired by true events based on his memoirs, and it's also titled Jungle, based off of the main character, who goes by the name of Yossi Ginsburg. The score was done by Johnny Klimek, the cinematography by Stefan Duccio, and it was edited by Sean Lahiff. And the stars of the movie are Daniel Radcliffe. Of course, you may know him, of course, from the Harry Potter movies, yes. Daniel Radcliffe himself is in it. Okay, we also have Alex Russell, Thomas Kretschmann, Yasmin Kassim, Joel Jackson, and Jacek Koman. So, based on actual events, Jungle centers around a thrill seeker by the name of Yossi Ginsburg, who's an Israeli. And he is going on a journey through the Amazon jungles of Bolivia, and his mission is to survive the terrain with no friends, no food, and he just has to sort of rely on almost primitive instinct for the next 20 days. Now, how did his journey to the Amazon jungles come about? Well, he was kind of manipulated by one of the four friends. I mean, he didn't come alone on this mission at first, but it's just that his troop kind of abandoned him. So then he had to spend the next 19 days in the jungles trying to survive. He's practically defenseless. He doesn't have any friends. He's ran out of food. He's ran out of supplies. He's kind of like ran out of everything. And now he just has to sort of become a man who is practically just surviving, just to hopefully find some way of getting some kind of refuge. But for the time being, he's alone. Okay, so I'm assuming that those who have kind of lost faith in Greg McLean and the direction choices he's made over the years, both his hits and misses, may think that he wasn't the right person for the job based on the bestseller novel by Yossi Ginsburg himself. Either that, or they've never experienced in the facets of survival of the fittest. You know, you think of the TV series, the reality show Survival. Well, Yossi Ginsburg was probably the person who solidified a true survival, a true survivor, without having cameras following him around, without, really anybody following him around. He was the original survivor, long before it became a reality show. A lot of critics referred to Jungle as cliche-laden, tedious, and melodramatic. And they can't be possibly any wronger. In fact, I actually enjoy the subtle touches of McLean's direction while investing into the realism over fantasy in this case. This is based off of a true story. No, this is not going to be some epic adventure. And Yossi Ginsburg is not going to be, fighting off anything. He is just doing everything he can possible to survive. And, 19 days in a jungle, well, let's just say it's not going to be pretty. And it's not going to be easy. He's going to have to rely on his resources. And he may even have to trust his primal instincts to survive. Even if it means that he's going to have to swim in a pool full of hungry leeches, or fight off the wildlife that surrounds the Amazonian jungles. Survival of the fittest, as they say. I'll say this is a truly step up for director Greg McLean from his other abominations like The Darkness and the Belko experiment, being that there is definitely more humanity put at heart here, and another milestone performance for Daniel Radcliffe, who's playing a character that I wouldn't want to be. It's definitely a true story that's need to be seen to be inspired. And I will say one thing for sure. Daniel Radcliffe really played this role to heart. He took us to roles that I never thought he would be deemed possible. Yes, I know there's supposed to be life after Harry Potter, and I know that he is doing everything he can possibly to break out of that shell. A lot of the other actors seem to be doing it too. Emma Watson, who was Hermione Granger, hi Diane, she seems to be doing very, very well for herself. Tom Felton, who you may have remembered as the antagonist, Draco Malfoy, he's also stepping up. And then, of course, hey, who can go wrong with Robert Pattinson, whose Twilight series took him to the top. So, hey, I'm glad for Daniel Radcliffe. I mean, he was doing everything he can to portray this Yossi Ginsburg. I mean, he's going as far as to portray and put on the Israeli accent quite convincingly. He's also trying to look like somebody who has been lost in a jungle for 19 days. I mean, he must have had to go through a lot of preparations to be thin, gaunt, disheveled. But if I do have to say something, it's like, Mr. Radcliffe, with all due respect, and I do mean that a lot, but my God, be careful with yourself, man. I know you want to throw yourself into a role, but brother, I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, don't do anything that you're going to regret later. Yes, I know, I guess to act the part, you have to physically look the part. And all I'm just saying is, as a friend, be careful. I just don't want to hear anything in the news that you died for a role, that you sacrificed yourself to put yourself into a character. Just think of the precautions, man. I mean, you did a good job. I mean, your performance was really good. You fit the part. You looked the part. But just don't end up being the part once the credits are done. Once the credits are done, I want you to go back to Daniel Radcliffe until the next time you find another role that you think that you could perform in. That's all I'm saying. So it's set in the Bolivian jungles. Yossi Ginsburg explores the area after serving 3 years in the Israeli army. There he befriends a Swiss school teacher by the name of Marcus Stam, played by Joel Jackson, and an American photographer by the name of Kevin Gale, played by Alex Russell. But then Yossi is manipulated by an Austrian bushman by the name of Karl Ruprechter, played by Thomas Kretschmann. And Ruprechter tells them that in the further depths of this jungle lives an obscure Bolivian native tribe. And this really gets them invested, like, wow, this is fucking awesome. And an Indian tribe in the jungles, a lost civilization, an obscure civilization in the jungles of Bolivia. This is like an anthropologist's dream. I mean, trying to explore this area is probably like a gold mine. I mean, wouldn't you like to be invested in what culture they go through, their language, their ways of life, their activities? This is everything an anthropologist could possibly dream of, even though it's not really confirmed if Yossi, Marcus, Kevin, or Carl are anthropologists. But this is fabulous. This is something that anybody would love to explore. How I would probably even go through such great lengths to know about these people. But the question we want to know is Ruprechter being honest about what he's saying, or is what he's saying a big fat lie? So Carl leads the other gentlemen on this trek, and during the early parts of the movie, all goes well, but unfortunately, that doesn't last very long. Tension and exhaustion, starts to unfold as Marcus suffers from severe chronic foot pain, and it becomes so sorely painful that he slows down the group as they start to progressively resent one another. So eventually the group splits up as Marcus and Carl bail out. Marcus, who had some sort of a falling out, decides to abandon the group. That's Carl. I mean, Marcus, because of his foot pain, he just can't continue, so he retreats to a nearby town to get further medical treatment. So that leaves Yossi and Kevin to go at it alone. But their mission also becomes overwhelming for Kevin as he walks out, leaving Yossi to be lonesome, or to be on his own, because eventually, I think it was some kind of an incident with the rafting and the currents. Then they eventually just got lost they got lost together, and they kind of like drifted apart. So this mission continues for 19 days as Yossi must depend on instinct and determination if he's going to go through this initiative on his own. So the journey, of course, isn't without dangers, including extreme heat, extreme hunger, the abundance of wildlife, swimming in a pool of leeches. Yossi himself has to depend on almost primal instinct just to survive, even if it means to kill a monkey and eat its guts. Hey, anything. Eat its brain raw. If it's for me to at least put some nourishment in my stomach, so be it. I know that sounded a little graphic, I understand. But just think about it. He's in the jungle. He has no food or supplies or any kind of equipment that would last him this long. He has to go at it alone. He's on his own in this. There's nobody there for him. So what's the poor guy going to do? Hunt, gather. I know that sounds kind of primitive, but he's far away from civilization. The Amazonian rainforests spread out from countries to countries, from Peru to Bolivia to Ecuador, maybe even Brazil. He needs some way to survive, and he will do anything he can possibly. And of course, this whole journey and thing, I mean, luckily he survived. Otherwise, he would have not written his famous best-selling novel. So we kind of know that, yes, he was going to eventually survive, that he was going to pull through. But the way they recreate the story, okay, maybe might have some dramatic licensing to it. After all, it's a movie, it's not a documentary. But at least, it's good to know that, he survived, he pulled through. But you want to know something? Like I said, if he would have had a phone back, if this would have been set today, if he would have had a phone, it would have been all settled. But the movie was set in the year 1981. I don't think too many people had smartphones or phones of all sorts, unless you were some kind of scientist. Maybe if you would have had maybe a walkie-talkie or a hand radio, he probably would have gotten out, maybe. Or he could have used the original smartphone, the smoke signal. I'm just saying. Oh, yeah, okay, Diane, the movie that I'm reviewing is the 2017 movie called Jungle. Yeah, it's got Daniel Radcliffe in it. The Harry Potter Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah, okay, like I said, if it was set in today's standards and he had a phone with him, he probably saved just like that. But this was back in the 1980s, 1981 to be exact, this whole journey. And like I said, very, very few people had smartphones, unless you were a computer operator or some astronomical engineer, not some average schmo like half the people in this world. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just stating facts. All right? Love you all. So, okay, the principal idiosyncrasy that makes this movie works is that the setting that I was exactly what I was expecting. Okay, so they didn't actually make the movie actually live from Bolivia, because I don't think they actually had the profits to do it like right in Bolivia. It was actually really set in the outbacks of Australia. But still, hey, it was very convincing enough. But also the feeling that we're also part of the action makes this film all the more to get invested in. No depending on green screens or cozy studios here, which actually adds more to the authenticity that this movie has. So Greg McLean, he takes us right into the thick of it all with the sights and sounds making everything seem like we are in the Amazonian jungles. This really goes up there with movies like Wolf Creek and Rogue. McLean succeeds in trusting his own intentions by refraining from depending on scenes designed to shock or thrill you, but to keep this story as real as it comes and still finds a way to remain entertaining. Which is why I love this movie so much. It looks real, it acts real, and it feels real too. Everything about this movie has a lot of realism to it. And to those people who were very hard on Greg McLean, well, yes, all the great ones, all the bad ones, they have done good movies, they've done bad movies. Even some of the bad directors, maybe once in a while, will even throw in a good movie here or there. You know, the old saying goes, even a blind squirrel can find a nut. It's all just part for the course, really. You know, everybody will have a flop or a success. I mean, I'm sure maybe even Ed Wood, who was like the king of the B directors, probably may have thrown in maybe one or two good movies in his lifetime. So, you know, to those who are unfair to Greg McLean for his flops, give the guy a break. He's still human. We're all human. We triumph and we fail. And when we fail, we get back up again. And when we get back up again, we fail. Nobody's perfect. Failure does not mean you're stupid. It could be just you're unlucky, or you were just misfortunate, or just a victim of wrong being or the wrong timing. Either way, this man deserves a break for all the people who have said negative stuff about Greg McLean and his directing. Sure, he's done his share of flops, but here he rejuvenated himself, and I think he did a very, very effective job at rejuvenating himself, even if it was just for this movie alone. But the real star here is the performance from Daniel Radcliffe, who once again shows us that he can turn in a serious and he can turn in complex performances that make you just totally forget about Harry Potter. Not to say that I want you to forget about Harry Potter, but I'm just saying that, you know, like I said before, there is more to life than Harry Potter. Okay? Here, he's definitely sacrificing his handsome looks for a more grizzled physical appearance, a more skinny, gaunt, almost starving himself type of performance. That's why I said the be careful rule. Don't overdo it with the risk taking. You know, think about your friends and your family and those who love you. I don't want you to do anything that you'll regret later. And definitely, he did this all for the sake of storytelling, of Ginsberg's journey of survival. This is truly one of Radcliffe's most committed roles, and he executed it to almost near perfection. Many critics bashed McLean for making Yossi talk to himself in the jungle. Well, what the fuck did you expect? I mean, when you're alone in the jungle and you have nobody to speak to, you're going to eventually speak to yourself. You're going to end up becoming delusional. You might end up looking at a stone or a boulder, and you'll end up talking to it. Why? Because, let's face it, the human race still depends on communication. I mean, if you probably go for days or weeks in his case without talking to anybody, you could probably end up losing your speech. A day should not go by without you not talking. Everybody needs to talk to someone. Everybody has to. It's mandatory. Without communication, then there's just no point living. I mean, even he has to talk to himself. I mean, who else is out there? I mean, think of the movie Castaway with Tom Cruise. What was he doing? He was talking to a fucking beach ball. Do you think he actually wanted to talk to a beach ball? Was it a beach ball? No, it was a volleyball. He had to speak to a volleyball. Who else is he going to talk to? You do need communication. It's important. Even if there is nobody there to talk to you. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's delusional or schizophrenic or anything like that. He just needs something or someone to talk to, because that's the human race. We're all about communication. Even with no one around, communication is still important, or else it'll likely turn primal. These events really happened, and the harsh reality is neither hyperbolic or delusional. If you've been through what Yossi went through, you would understand the story more. And maybe I'm just throwing in the icing on the cake. Maybe there was more to this story than what was given to us in the movie. But he gave us enough information possible of what it would be like being lost in a jungle for 19 days without food, shelter, or communication. It's a wonder how he survived this ordeal. I mean, he was actually even pronounced dead. Grown people have been in jungles and stuff like that and couldn't survive. I was actually quite inspired that the only thing he ended up getting was looking frazzled, disheveled, hungry, hot, and tired. People have died from less things than this. So, this Yossi Ginsburg is a very, very inspiring individual. Daniel Radcliffe, like I said, he was very committed. I didn't even think he actually could be able to pull off an Israeli accent, since the only accent I've ever heard from him do was British. It's obvious. Daniel Radcliffe's from England. I remember there was a movie called December Boys that came out a couple of years ago, and he managed to go with the Australian twang. Ain't that right, mate? But he pulled it off very well. I mean, I'm not also saying the supporting cast is good, but hey, let's face it, Daniel Radcliffe carried the cargo here. And maybe I might be just looking at him, but I can't say the same that the supporting cast, because the supporting cast wasn't really on very long and didn't really have much to do. It was pretty much Daniel Radcliffe's movie. This is definitely McLean's best film, pretty much after Wolf Creek. And to those who have, like I said, to summarize, I'm going to end this soon. Greg McLean definitely redeemed himself. And to all those who have badmouthed him in the past, do us all a favor. Just watch this movie. And you'll see he's not as bad of a director as everybody likes to pan him out to be. Everybody deserves a chance. No matter how hard they try and try and try, show encouragement. Don't show discouragement. Don't lose faith or trust in people. No matter how many times they screw up, just let them go and get better and better as they go along. And maybe instead of ridiculing, show some more respect and less ridicule. That's kind of like my philosophical thing I'm going to say today. So with all that said and done, like I said, this was a great adventure movie that didn't require, wasn't violent. There was no real excessive violence or things like that. There was no real, to some extent, there was no real heavy-handed antagonist. Maybe that Ruprechter guy probably came closest, because we discovered that he's not really a bushman, but a convicted criminal. And you know, if you ever wish to read Yossi Ginsberg's novel, I also strongly suggest you check it out. I'm sure it's on Amazon if you really want to read about it, or if you want to really read about the native tribe that was within the jungles in Bolivia, who they were and what they were about. I mean, I'm sure there is probably some books of knowledge in there. Let's face it, this movie could almost be something of an anthropologist's dream. You know, I mean, isn't that what anthropology is about? To explore people and their cultures and their customs and their ways of life and their language. This is all very, very fascinating stuff. So if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Jungle an 8.5. I really highly recommend you check this movie out. If there was any real weakness, I guess you could say the supporting cast really didn't have much to do with this, since this was pretty much Daniel Radcliffe's movie. But he still pulled it off, and he really sacrificed himself to get really invested in this movie, and this movie is very, very involving. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. I do have a YouTube channel. Check it out. You can subscribe to me if you like. If you wish to leave a comment, you know, I'm always welcome to it, as long as you're kind, you're courteous, and you're not rude. And you know what? I'm going to be back again with another movie review. Your comments and your inspiration makes me want to do more of these. And I thank you all. So until next time, this is Eric Kurard Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.